Welcome. I'm Tracy Smith, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. Funny man Adam Sandler has been making audiences laugh since his college days. But unlike some Hollywood stars, he's not afraid of getting old. As I found out, he's embracing it.
Give it up for Adam Sandler!
Sandler's definitely on these days, touring, and it seems more popular than ever. In fact, he's been compared to a fine wine, getting better with each passing year. Sorry, I didn't tell you I was going to do this.
That's so funny, man.
Adam Sandler on the cover of AARP magazine.
They asked me to be on the cover. What am I going to say no to these guys? They were nice people. But
how does that feel to be?
Feels nice that my mother's friends can talk to me about something.
There's more from my chat with Adam Sandler coming up a little later in the show.
Who was harder to make laugh, your dad or your mom?
Mom's very easy to make laugh, but then would right after say, I didn't understand that. So she'd give me a fake laugh. She knew I was trying to be funny, and she'd laugh, and then she would say it again. And then my father, man, when he laughed, boy, you were excited. You were excited that the big man was good and thought it was funny because he was a smart guy, and he always, you know, certain comedians made him laugh. I used to love any comedian my father and mother liked. I would be like, oh, he's my favorite, Buddy Hackett, and, you know, Cosby, and boy, there were so many people that my parents, when they would watch him on Johnny Carson, I'd be like, oh God, I want to be like that guy. It's making my dad happy.
Then Rita Braver explores how Vincent van Gogh became one of America's favorite artists.
Born in the Netherlands, Vincent van Gogh died in France in 1890 at age 37. After working as an artist for only 10 years. And though it may have taken decades for this country to appreciate him, curator Jill Shaw says he embodies the American spirit.
Vincent was primarily self-taught, and I think Americans are particularly drawn to people who pick themselves up by the bootstraps,
overcome adversity,
and do what they feel they need to do for their role in the world.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. Adam Sandler has made more than 30 films, playing explosively funny characters in many of them. But his diverse roles do share a common theme. As he told me, he's drawn to stories of struggling underdogs. Bagel seems pretty mellow.
Bagel can be great.
We met Adam Sandler and his bulldog Bagel near their home in Los Angeles.
Whenever somebody says, can my dog say hello to your dog, I say it's not a good idea. But they do it anyways, and then Bagel starts losing his mind.
He says Bagel's basically a good guy who gets a little worked up now and again. And the same can probably be said for Adam Sandler himself.
And we're off. Here we go.
In the Netflix film Hustle, he's Stanley Sugarman, a big league basketball scout who roams the earth looking for the next great pro ball player. He finds one in Spain.
Look at us start. Let's get to work.
But getting him into the NBA turns out to be a brutal uphill climb.
So I'm asking you now for something. Please help me.
It seems like you're drawn to these characters who are unlucky, you could say losers.
Right.
What do you think that is?
Oh man, I always liked them growing up. I liked pulling for somebody who needed something.
Been in this league for 30 years, and it's like I'm nothing.
I relate to all different types of people, but I enjoy playing these guys who are struggling. I like that.
You like that. What is it about that?
I guess admire somebody who doesn't give up.
Many of the players in Hustle, including the star, Juancho Hernangomez, are actual NBA ballers, so it all feels intense and real.
How old is he?
In other words, it's not your father's Adam Sandler film.
Hustle's been critically acclaimed. You already are nominated for a bunch of awards. There's Oscar buzz. Do you try to tune that out?
I'm not expecting it. I don't sit and watch my performance and go, riveting, man. How the hell did I do that? I'm proud of it. And if any of that stuff happens, that'd be great. If it doesn't happen, still everything's been pretty damn good.
You like that, baby? Let him know where I came from, yeah!
Seems like things have been good for Adam Sandler for a while now.
Good for your home? Answer me!
In more than 30 feature films, he's built a career as the comic man-child, the guy you could always count on to melt down on cue.
You want a Happy Meal? We'll get you one of those Happy Meals. You got a Happy Meal? Can we get a Happy Meal?
Will somebody get the kid a Happy Meal?
The funny stuff seems to come naturally, but Sandler's background is a bit more serious.
One thing I think people might not know about you is that you went to NYU. You went to a serious acting school.
Yes. I studied at Lee Strasberg Studios at NYU in the Tisch School of the Arts. I think I got there when I was 17. I started doing stand-up, so I would do school, serious stuff in the day.
And at night, he'd work the New York comedy clubs.
So, I mean, I finished a big book the other day, 421 pages. That's a lot of coloring, you know, when you think about it there.
Put on your yarmulke, here comes Hanukkah.
In 1990, at age 24, he hired on at Saturday Night Live. And by 94, he was a standout with bits like the Hanukkah song.
Paul Newman's half Jewish and Goldie Hawn's half too. Put them together, what a fine-looking Jew.
He was especially close to castmate Chris Farley, both on and off screen.
You and Chris Farley, were you bonded from the moment you met?
Yeah, for sure. Everybody was with Farley. Anybody who knew him felt a massive love and connection with him. Me and Farley, Spade and Rock, we shared an office together. So we were with each other pretty much all the time and loved him.
Farley died in 1997, but Sandler sings a tribute to his friend at every one of his shows.
Plaid jacket and belt too tight, he wasn't even doing a bit.
I remember the first night we played it, and I finished the first verse, and then I said something about talking about my friend Chris Farley.
He was a one-man party. You know I'm talking about my friend Chris Farley.
And the place erupted, and you don't expect that.
It's wonderful that you memorialized him that way.
Yes, I feel very proud of that.
You know I'm thinking about my boy Chris Farley.
Music has long been a part of Sandler's act on stage or screen.
It could be so nice growing old with you.
In 1998's The Wedding Singer, this song, Grow Old With You, was directed at Drew Barrymore. But the real love of his life is the actor playing the flight attendant in another movie.
Planes have bars now in first class.
Man, I wish my mother was still alive to say that she was an alcoholic, but a nice one.
Sir, if you don't return to your seat, I'm gonna have to call
The cops.
Jackie and Adam Sandler were married in 2003, and he closes his show with a song that now belongs to her.
I got everything I want, growing old with you.
When you first played that for Jackie, what was it like?
Man, I think I played it for her at a show, and she loved it. And it was sweet, real, and I love her. I want her to know that everywhere I go.
In your life, how key is having that support, Jackie's support?
Well, when she don't support me, if something's off, I'm off.
Give it up for Adam Sandler!
Sandler's definitely on these days, touring, and it seems more popular than ever. In fact, he's been compared to a fine wine, getting better with each passing year.
Sorry, I didn't tell you I was going to do this.
That's so funny, man.
Adam Sandler on the cover of AARP magazine.
They asked me to be on the cover. What am I going to say no to these guys? They were nice people. But
how does that feel to be?
Feels nice that my mother's friends can talk to me about something.
And right now, in Adam Sandler's world, there's a lot to talk about.
Do you want to be in the NBA? Yes!
Well, let's make that happen. Never back down.
So where are you now? Are you happy?
Solid. That's at this minute. I'm solid. I can't say the whole day is going to be that way. At 9 o'clock this morning, I remember being a little nuts, a little off. Then came 10 o'clock, I was getting my makeup on for you. That drives me crazy, anybody touching my face. Then I saw Bagel, the dog, that felt good. I was nervous he was gonna bite another dog or a kid or something, so I got tense for a second. But then when I sat down with you, it all feels good. Well, because we're talking about me. It feels just fine.
More exclusive excerpts from our conversation coming up a little later in the show. But first, how the U.S. Midwest helped popularize the paintings of Vincent van Gogh. It may seem hard to believe, but there was a time in this country when Vincent van Gogh wasn't celebrated as a genius of the art world. In fact, as Rita Braver discovered, it took decades for America to fall in love with his paintings.
If you had to pick an artist who is the most beloved by Americans, you would go to Van Gogh, wouldn't you?
Oh, undoubtedly. And I think there's a few reasons why. They're joyful, they're beautiful, the texture of his paint strokes is just, it's like cake icing.
How many years did you work on this exhibition?
6 years.
And curator Jill Shaw explains in Van Gogh in America at the Detroit Institute of Arts, it was anything but love at first sight when Americans were introduced to 21 Van Gogh works displayed at the New York Armory Show of 1913, the first major U.S. showcase for modern art. What was the response to those works? Did people buy them?
Not at all.
A few private U.S. collectors did begin purchasing Van Gogh paintings, but it was not until 1922 that the Detroit Institute of Arts became the first museum in the country to buy a Van Gogh work, this self-portrait. How much did the museum pay for the piece?
$4,200.
I have a feeling it's worth a little more now.
Just a little bit,
Yeah.
a few more zeros.
The only record of how the public responded to the work is from a newspaper account.
And it was displayed among the old masters, and the reporter noted that it held its own.
In 1926, the Art Institute of Chicago became home to this and several other Van Gogh works. Museums in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Toledo soon followed. Yes, it was all happening in the Midwest.
I think there was some kind of element of making our own name and claiming a stake in a certain kind of avant-garde art that was still being reviewed and on its way to being accepted by East Coast museums.
Then in 1934, Americans became entranced with Irving Stone's best-selling Lust for Life, a loosely biographical novel about Van Gogh.
But it was also in conjunction with a 1935 exhibition organized by the Museum of Modern Art in New York, which was Van Gogh's very first museum retrospective in the United States. The two combined, and it was an amazing explosion of activity.
The 1956 film of Lust for Life, starring Kirk Douglas, intensified Americans' fascination with Van Gogh and his inner demons.
I'm hardly conscious of myself anymore, and the pictures come to me as in a dream with a terrible lucidity.
Van Gogh did suffer from mental illness, which led to him cutting off his own ear, as well as to what is believed was a suicide. But Shaw says works like this spring from artistry, not madness.
In fact, he's painting this from nature and he's painting this from life. He's very much in control, even sent sketches of this work to his friends in letters.
Born in the Netherlands, Vincent van Gogh died in France in 1890 at age 37 after working as an artist for only 10 years. And though it may have taken decades for this country to appreciate him, curator Jill Shaw says he embodies the American spirit.
Vincent was primarily self-taught, and I think Americans are particularly drawn to people who pick themselves up by the bootstraps,
overcome adversity,
and do what they feel they need to do for their role in the world.
I did this thing of making cheap Halloween costumes and just using like a spoon or something like that. And that, I remember Chris Rock came to me and he's like, my friends are talking about the Halloween stuff. You should do that again. I was like, oh yeah.
We'll have more with Adam Sandler coming up next. Stay with us.
But that was something that was clicking a little bit.
Welcome back. As promised, here's more with Adam Sandler.
Do you remember the first time that you had a bit when you were on camera that hit?
Wow, man. I was so young and dumb. I thought everything I did hit. I was like, crush that one. And then if I watch it back now, I'm like, whoa, didn't crush that one. But I started getting noticed a little bit. I used to do the Cajun Man. I'd walk in New York after I would do the Cajun Man, and people would scream something Cajun-y at me. I was like, oh, okay, that felt good. Oh, I did the Halloween costumes. I did this thing of making cheap Halloween costumes and just using like a spoon or something like that. And that, I remember Chris Rock came to me and he's like, my friends are talking about the Halloween stuff. You should do that again. I was like, oh yeah. Halloween's only once a year, so I had to wait a year for that one. But that was something that was clicking a little bit.
Is it kind of crazy to you at this point that here you were, this kid who went and said, oh wow, what Rodney Dangerfield's doing, what Eddie Murphy's doing is so cool.
Yeah.
And you got that dream.
I don't know, man. It's like I was so driven. I don't know why. I was so driven. I was just like, gotta make that happen. Can't not do this stuff. Gotta get these movies going. I didn't even, the game plan was not there. It was just moment to moment. Saturday Night Live. Oh yeah, if I'm on Saturday Night Live, I better do good. Make it a movie. If I do a movie, I better not waste this opportunity. It was that kind of stuff. But my dad used to say to me when I was young, and when I was in college, and I'd say, I'm gonna do this and that. He'd be like, yeah, you can do that. And if you don't, you'll come work with me. He was an electrical contractor. And I'd say, I don't know how to do that. He'd go, I'll teach you. But he'd say, when you get to maybe 23, 24, if it's not working out, you'll come work for me. So I had like this fallback, work for dad thing if this doesn't work out. But honestly, I would just say to him, no, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna do good. And he'd be like, all right. He'd look at me like I was a little nuts. My mother, on the other hand, was just like, oh, he's gonna be wonderful, because she thought every move I made was great.
Who was harder to make laugh, your dad or your mom?
Mom's very easy to make laugh, but then would right after say, I didn't understand that. So she'd give me a fake laugh. She knew I was trying to be funny, and she'd laugh, and then she would say it again. And then my father, man, when he laughed, boy, you were excited. You were excited that the big man was good and thought it was funny, because he was a smart guy, and he always, certain comedians made him laugh. I used to love any comedian my father and mother liked. I would be like, oh, he's my favorite, Buddy Hackett, and Cosby, and boy, there were so many people that my parents, when they would watch him on Johnny Carson, I'd be like, oh God, I want to be like that guy. It's making my dad happy.
So was that kind of one of the reasons that you started telling jokes, doing comedy, was to get dad to laugh? I guess like everybody who's a comic, you like seeing the reaction. Maybe it was my way in school to try to be noticed as a kid, maybe. And like when we would go to a movie theater like this and the lights were turning down, I'd always scream something out, and hopefully the crowd would laugh. And if they did, I'd be like, oh yeah, that felt good. Like what? We're sitting in a movie theater and you would yell what as a kid? Just something that made no sense. Here we go, or
something ridiculous. I don't know, like, I forgot my popcorn, or whatever thing an 8-year-old would say, I would say. And, you know, if I was with my family, I wouldn't do it because my father would be like, what are you doing, man? No screaming in a movie theater. But if I was with 3 or 4 of my friends, I would belt out something, and if it got a laugh, then the car ride home, the kids would say, and how about when Adam said blah, blah, blah? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, it feels good to talk about something Adam did.
That felt good.
I guess, as a kid, yeah. Now I don't scream out too much. I gotta lay low in the movie theater.
What's the best advice your dad ever gave you?
He gave me good stuff every day. He always just, one that stands out, I remember he said, you can't always be happy. I remember he told me that one day when I was down about something when I was young. And I said, oh man, I'm upset, and blah, blah, blah. And he said, it's all right, you can't always be happy, man. You just gotta, you know, enjoy when happy comes and know that you're down for a reason, and you'll eventually get out of it. So I remember that one. But he gave me a million good ones. He wasn't like a guy who sat and had, you know, quotes all day long. He just kind of just was there for you, made us all feel good, strong, and we knew you were loved. And my mother always made us feel loved, and it's kind of like how we're doing it with our kids. My wife's certainly good at that too.
I'm Tracy Smith. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next time on Here Comes the Sun.